I was too lazy to go get them.
That's like gold, man. It's like gold, you know. Yeah, it's the age of the internet now, so the young guys wouldn't even remember this era, but it was just a few books and magazines, and they were like, when's the next magazine coming out? And you're waiting for that information, right? And
I mean, the training programs that would come out of these things, and then sometimes they would have these little obscure things you could order, so you get the Muslim Fitness, but it would say, look, for $9.99, we're going to send you this special edition squat training program, and it would be like a 20-page brochure. And I mean, yeah, that was gold. I mean, I lived by these things.
I had a great collection of magazines. Pretty much every magazine that was published while I was interested in bodybuilding, I had it. Plus, you know, my friend's older brother that used to train in the 60s, or, you know, people like this used to donate it. So I had all this collection in my basement, and then one day there was a flood, so my whole collection was no more. So that's a shame. Yeah, Peter, your background. I'd like to talk a little bit about your background, because I think, well, I know you're coming from conventional medicine background, and maybe, I'm guessing you got a bit disillusioned or frustrated with that, and you're going down a different path now to help people with their health. So maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about that, about your background, where you came from and where it led you to, and what you're doing now to help people with their health.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody who's, you know, goes to medical school at a nice medical school like I did, you get trained in a system that is a good system. It's an important system. It's a system in the book that I call Medicine 2.0. And Medicine 2.0 is really valuable. I mean, Medicine 2.0 is what allowed us to double human lifespan in about 100 years, which is kind of a remarkable feat, right? We spend hundreds of thousands of years living and dying essentially the same way, which is to say we rarely live past the age of 40, and we succumb to horrible infections, communicable diseases, and trauma, and childbirth, right? Those are basically the four things that absolutely obliterated our species. Luckily, on average, we were still able to reproduce, but basically there was no progress in human health. And this thing called Medicine 2.0 comes along in the latter part of the 19th century, the early part of the 20th century, which, you know, primarily through its understanding of sanitation, microbial existence, right, that there's a world of viruses and bacteria out there that we can't see, and just through better practices of trauma and critical care. And again, we basically take life expectancy from 40 to 80 in a couple of generations. And that's really remarkable, and we shouldn't forget the fact that you and I wouldn't be alive without it today. But something occurs along the way, which is as we get better and better at surviving trauma, infections, acute illness, it exposes another vulnerability, which is we don't really have a great system for addressing chronic disease. So we trade all of those acute things that kill us for a set of chronic things that kill us, things like cardiovascular disease, heart disease, strokes, cancer, dementia, diabetes. And all of a sudden that same playbook, that Medicine 2.0 playbook that we all learned about in medical school, it's just a lot less effective. I don't want to say it's completely ineffective, because that's not true, but it's not very effective. All it tends to do is eke out a little bit more time, but not really at high quality.
And that managing the symptoms of those chronic diseases, not eliminating them.
Definitely not eliminating them, and not really even halting them that much, right? I mean, you know, it's mostly just delaying sickness. And again, I think there's something to that, right? I mean, I don't think anybody would want to go back in time and, you know, even when we died of heart attacks, usually on first contact. So there's an example where Medicine 2.0 has done some great work, right? It used to be that if you had a heart attack, there was about a 2/3 chance that you were going to die from that first heart attack. That's not the case today. Most people who have a heart attack will survive that heart attack thanks to stents and blood thinners and lipid-lowering medication. But we're still not at the point where we're taking a hard look at how do you prevent these things from ever happening in the first place. And so this idea of Medicine 3.0, as I call it in the book, is that we need more tools, basically. right? Like, we need to be as thoughtful and rigorous about nutrition and exercise and sleep and mental health as Medicine 2.0 has been about two things, which is pharmacology and procedures, right? That's what Medicine 2.0 worked by. It was really good with drugs and really good with surgery and interventions. And those two things basically accounted for this doubling of lifespan. But there was very little attention to nutrition, exercise, sleep, and mental health. And what we have to do, I argue, is if we want to really live longer and, more importantly, much better lives, we're going to have to pay as much attention to those other things as we do to the tools that made Medicine 2.0 successful.
So we're working with the body and optimizing the body's natural systems with exercise, with nutrition, sleep, and so on. And I guess it's new territory because people are living longer because of the original Medicine 2.0, right? So people are living longer, so they're getting these diseases which come slowly with time. So of all of those things, I mean, they're all important, but which one carries the most weight with the, you know, exercise, nutrition? What's the most important thing? Is it VO2 max? Is it muscle mass? Or what is the most protective thing we could look into first? Like, this is the first thing that we should consider.
You know, it's always hard to answer that question for a given person. So I can only answer that question on average, and then for a given person, there might be an exception. But on average, the answer is really unambiguous. And it is that exercise carries the most benefit. Now, again, I'll give you an example where that's not the case, right? If you take a very extreme case of someone who's doing everything right, they're exercising, they're doing, you know, they're following the perfect diet, but they sleep 3 hours a night, well, then that is going to derail everything and anything, and that will be the shortest path to the end of the road. But if you just talk about things that are wrong, we know that having high strength and high VO2 max because those things are easy to measure and they are very objective, right? Like, it's, you know, if I ask you, what is your grip strength? How much can you do with leg extension? How much can you bench press? That's just a black and white answer.
Yeah.
So scientists love to study things where the answer is measurable and objective. The same is true with VO2 max. If I put you on a treadmill or a bike and I push you to the point of exhaustion, I will measure very precisely how much oxygen you consume. But the magnitude of the benefit of those two factors follow pretty closely by muscle mass. Although I would argue muscle mass is mostly a proxy for strength, although it certainly plays a role in metabolic health just by being a place where the body can store glucose effectively. It's very hard to find a very muscular person who isn't metabolically healthy as well. So it's for that reason that I would argue, exercise is probably the one that everybody can stand to do a bit more of. And it becomes important as we age, right? So let's be clear. I think that, not that I did a fraction of what you did, but when I look at what I was doing in my teens, right at the time that you were standing on the Olympia stage, I don't think I would argue that that was the best exercise for longevity, right? That was, in your case, the best exercise for being the best bodybuilder in the world. But it also came at a cost. It came at an injury cost, right? And
well, a competitive athlete is not concerned, really not concerned with health. It's concerned with winning the competition. So the way I was thinking now and the way I'm thinking now is obviously different. I'm at a different age with a different mindset, and I know some of what I did back then was very valuable, but it's to an extreme. Anything to an extreme is not normally very healthy.
Right, so the best runners in the world at the Olympics are not the healthiest people in the world, right? Right now, as we sit here and record this, one of my favorite sporting events of all is going on, which is the Tour de France. I can't get enough of it, right? As also as a former cyclist myself. But the truth of it is, like, the guy that wins the Tour de France this year is not going to be, at the moment he crosses that finish finish line the healthiest person, even though he probably has the highest weight max on the planet. So as we think about exercise through the lens of longevity, we actually have to have a paradigm shift in our minds, and it's something I write about in the book called the Centenarian Decathlon. In other words, what made you special in the 90s was the specificity and the ferocity with which you trained for what you did. What makes Tadej Pogačar the greatest cyclist in the world is the specificity with which he marries his genetic potential and training for a very, very specific race. He's not the best sprinter, he's not the best at, he's the best at this particular race. And what I believe is if people are listening to us and they're thinking, I want to make sure that in the last decade of my life, I can run around on the beach and play with grandkids, and I can travel, and I can sit on the floor and get up on my own, and I can dance with my wife, and I can have sex, and I can do all these things that you and I would take for granted today because we're still relatively young. If they say that they want to be able to do those things, they have to train for it. And they actually have to train with as much specificity and focus as you trained when you were trying to be the best bodybuilder on the planet. And it's a very different type of training. It's actually a more well-rounded training, right? Like, you know, when you did cardio back in the day, it was mostly for metabolic conditioning and fat burning. You didn't have
burn
to
calories.
VO2 max. Yep.
Burn calories. I didn't want the heart rate to go too high because that might interfere with the recovery. It's another stress, you know.
Yeah,
specific stress for a specific goal. So I just used it like fast walking, low resistance biking. It was simply I'm burning more calories than sitting on my ass, you know. So it was useful in that way. Yeah, just as you say, just as a calorie burner. I wasn't concerned with my VO2 max. I don't know what it was. I know now, but I didn't know.
Yeah, and so now as we think about training to be the best athletes of life, which is really what we're talking about, right? There's probably no one listening to us now because they want to be Mr. Olympia. If that's what they want to do with their head, they're going to be.
Some of the guys will be listening, the ones that are like, you know, got aches and pains and, you know, struggling to go up the stairs. They're probably thinking it's time to change the way they're training and train for life, train for what you need. I trained for a goal to be the most muscular man on the planet because that was the competition I was in, and I loved it and everything. But you got to know when to change lanes in life. What was appropriate at some point may not be at another point as you get older. So that's what I wanted to talk to you about. How do we say, not lifespan, you call it health span. You know.
Yeah, I talk about both.
Functional age,
both, right?
functional age, yeah.
We want lifespan. I mean, I want to live longer than my ancestors did. It's not going to be infinite, right? I'm going to die, but I'd rather die at 95 than 75, all things equal. But
As long as that last 25 years of life is,
right.
you're functional, you have something to contribute, you can, you know where you are and you're with your family or whatever. If you're in pain and your faculties are not working, then you have to rely on other people to look after you. I don't think that's really,
right.
You know, a great goal to have.
And that's why I think another real difference between Medicine 3.0 and Medicine 2.0 is that Medicine 2.0 focuses on lifespan. It's the metric that everything gets measured. It's how many years does a person live? And there's a saying, it's true in everything. It's true in business. It's what gets measured gets managed. So when you have a system of medicine that is entirely predicated on lifespan as the metric, that's what gets managed. What are we doing to incrementally increase lifespan? And we do get some benefits to health span along the way, but I argue that we must make health span an explicit goal and target. And if we do that, if we measure it directly, physical health, cognitive health, emotional health, if we make those explicit and objective measurements and targets of what we want to do, they will get measured. They will get better, right? If we measure those things, we will manage those things. And that's very much a Medicine 3.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you think Medicine 2.0 is gonna go to all that extent, to teach people how to be healthy and then not really then needing the 2.0 medicines as they get older? So is it that is based in profit and that wouldn't be profitable for them to promote the kind of, natural health, as you want to call it, training, nutrition that yourself and other people that have come maybe from that background and saw the shortcomings of it?
Yeah, it's an interesting point. I mean, I don't really think so. I also think there's a big separation between physicians and sort of the medical infrastructure. I don't think there's a physician out there, even if they're fully trained and practicing and steeped in Medicine 2.0, who wouldn't welcome a system where we could help people live longer and better by utilizing other tools. On the side of the physicians, the big challenge is we were not educated in those other things, right?
Yeah.
So everything that I know today about nutrition and exercise and sleep and emotional health, I had to learn postgraduate, right? I did not learn those in medical school, nor did I learn them in my residency, which is like my apprenticeship after medical school.
Yeah, I don't know how long you spend it, a doctor would spend studying nutrition in the United States. But in UK,
You literally spend a couple of hours.
Yeah, it's like one afternoon.
Yeah.
I mean, one afternoon, you're not going to learn anything more than a high school kid in the afternoon about nutrition. Somebody like myself, especially learner like myself, I have to books on nutrition, I have to study, I have to spend a lot of time. So someone like myself would know much more than a medical doctor. So they're not trained in nutrition, in my opinion, anyway. Because why? It's not.
Well, I think it
it
varies by country, but I can tell you that with a slightly U.S. bias because of where I live, it really comes down to how reimbursement is conducted, right? So reimbursement, how physicians get paid, and I say this as people are well-meaning physicians, but they can only get paid if they have a diagnosis and a code. That's how the insurance system works. You have to be able to put a diagnosis in place. So if Dorian comes to see me, I have to be able to say he has high blood pressure, he has this infection, he has kidney disease, he has heart disease, he has this, and then I can give a treatment or a prescription or something based on that. So I have to be marrying a diagnosis, a code, and a treatment.
Yeah.
And as it stands today, nutrition or exercise as a prescription is not really reimbursable in the way, for example, a procedure might be. So again, I know it's fashionable and it's easy for some to say, well, the proper design is not but I also think that's overly simplified too. I'm not saying you're saying that, but I think that's
I wouldn't suggest it's individuals. It's the system that they're in.
Yes,
they don't have a choice.
it is the system. That's exactly right. It is the system. And there would clearly be losers and winners if the system shifted. When Medicine 2.0 came along, it completely displaced Medicine 1.0. Medicine 1.0 was sort of voodoo witchcraft stuff, like it's the spirits, it's the air that make you sick. It wasn't grounded in science. But Medicine 3.0 should not displace Medicine 2.0. They need to be able to run it, right? If you break your leg tomorrow, you absolutely want Medicine 2.0, right?
100%.
We want someone who could put a pin in your femur and give you the right antibiotic, and if you develop any sort of complication from these things, we want the best of Medicine 2.0. We just need to take the chronic disease prevention piece away from Medicine 2.0 and give that to Medicine 3.0. So in an ideal world, I can almost imagine there being two types of physicians. Those who are there to practice Medicine 3.0 alongside those who are there to practice Medicine 2.0. And again, they have some overlap, but they're quite distinct. And I think it's very difficult to play in both worlds. But I think we need them both.
Yeah, I think it's easy to get into black and white thinking. This system is right, this system's wrong. I mean, it's shades of grey always, right? And absolutely, if you're in an accident, car accident, or you infectious disease, you would want to have medicine 2.0. You wouldn't want to go back to taking herbs maybe, or whatever they had in the past.
By the way, I want to ask you a question, Gordon.
Sure,
In
go ahead, man.
in your last Olympia,
Yeah.
I know you tore your tricep. How many weeks out was that you tore the tricep?
Well, here's the thing with the tricep. It was I had chronic tendonitis, like pretty much all year round of training, and I was trying to manage it. You know, anti-inflammatories, ice, and changing the exercises and everything. And as it was chronic, what I probably needed to do was like just not lift for a couple of months and get therapy and break the scar tissue down, and you know. But when you're at the top of the game, where's the 2 months downtime that you can take? You know, at least you don't think you can, and that's the mentality. So I was pushing through, and I went to see a surgeon because we didn't really have any strength power sports in UK where doctors and surgeons were used to dealing with those kind of people. Not like in the States where they have American football and, you know, power sports. It was mainly soccer, so the best guy I could find was used to work with Aston Villa, was a professional soccer team. So he looked at me and he said, right, you've got scar tissue in the tendon, there's some damage already been done there, and maybe we need to do a surgery and remove some of the scar tissue. But obviously got a contract coming up in, it was 6 weeks out when I went to see him, and he gave me a cortisone injection, which I know now was probably not a good idea.
Yeah, probably weakened.
Yeah, it takes the inflammation down, but it's catabolic to the tissue that was already damaged, and I wasn't doing anything particularly heavy. It was 3 weeks before the competition, and I was doing a tricep extension and a few tear a tendon. You know about it.
You can
So does everyone else in the gym know
Yeah.
about it, because they heard it, right? And it's just pain, terrible pain, and I couldn't assess fully the damage because at this point they had in the UK only the regular MRIs, like a tunnel, and I was that
You're
big.
too big for
I
it.
couldn't
Yeah.
get in there, right? So I had to wait to go to New York where they had an open MRI a week before the contest. So it was like a cross point. I had this injury and it was career ending, can't do the contest injury, forget about it, it's done. But I had another injury in '94 where I tore a bicep, and it was also pretty much the same story. Initially when it happened, I thought that's it, you know, career's over. I got to my dream, I've won the Mr. Olympia, I set new standards, and now it's over. But I've changed my mind and I said I'll just persevere and I'll do what I can do, and let's see what the outcome is. So I decided to do the same again. I couldn't do any training, couldn't really do posing because I didn't know what was going on. When I went to New York, the MRI showed it was.
Sorry, just to be sure I understand the right. In the 2 weeks between the tear and
No
your trip
training.
to Europe, were you doing legs? I mean, what were you doing?
Yeah,
other
just
arm?
cardio on a bike, training the other side. Even posing, I was very cautious because I didn't want to tense too hard, and you know.
Was it, and I assume the tear allowed, because just for people listening, the tricep has a very thick tendon that attaches on the
Yeah.
Was this a complete transection?
It was still hanging on.
I
That's
see, so it
why.
didn't
That's
fall
why
up.
it didn't
Yeah.
roll up the arm. It was still kind of hanging on, but the medial head was torn as well, so it was not clean. It wasn't just the tendon; it was a bit of medial head as well.
And you must have just had an awful bruise on your arm. Was it black and blue?
That was the main work of my physio. He had this like inflatable sleeve that you put on your arm, and it just inflates, goes down. So it's basically massaging you for hours and hours. We did that, and then the night before the competition, he came in my room to drain it off. I think he took like 25 ml of blood and
Just clotted blood.
whatever was in there. So it didn't look too bad. It was still black, but we got the tanning lotion and everything, and disguised it as good as I can. But yeah, it was that was a challenge.
Who do you think? I mean, again, I still am just blown away by this. And by the way, when you go back and look at '95,
Yeah.
you can see the difference in the biceps.
And 94 is when I did it.
Was it 94? Okay,
Yeah, 94
you
I
can-
did it, and 95 I managed to still make improvements, but obviously that's something you can't. The muscle belly is permanently short, there's nothing you can do. It wasn't a detachment of the tendon, and this one it was the muscle tore and just slid up and made a bigger tendon. So it's shorter, there's nothing to reattach. When people you ask me, why didn't you get it fixed? It's like, there's nothing to fix. If I detached the tendon from the ulna, then yeah, I could attach it back. That didn't happen. It's short in the muscle, okay? So nothing to do with that.
So who do you think sustained those when you showed up to beat that?
In 97,
Yes.
very few people, because I didn't tell anybody. And
Which
that
was brilliant.
That was strategic, yeah, because if you look for something, you know, if you look for shit, you find shit. If you look for anything, you know. So I didn't want people to be always, where's that injury? Where is it? You know. So I only told like a couple of people that was really close to me, and I'm sure that would not be possible now because there would have been somebody in the gym or somebody that heard something from the gym that would post something online, and you wouldn't be able to do that now. So
what was the
I
pain
think,
like when you posed?
it wasn't really bad pain. It was just like I knew from the MRI I had in New York that it was 95% detached. So it was holding on by a little sliver. And sometimes in those posing, you know, you might accidentally bang an elbow with somebody and this and that. And normally I'm very, 100% up and confident there and whatever is going on online. But there, it really damaged my confidence because like I could even further injure this while I'm on stage here. It gives, makes you a bit nervous and not the same confidence. But yeah, I got through it and I won the contest. But that was
Who was your biggest competition that year? Was that Sean Graham?
no, it was NASA. A lot of people still to this day think NASA should have won. Especially if they look at some pictures online, because in some pictures he looks way better than me, admittedly, but it's not. It's a total of scores from all the different positions, not whether you look much better than you did in a couple of poses and you look marginally better in 5 others. It doesn't matter. It's
Who do you think is the greatest bodybuilder to have not won Olympia?
There's several people, but if I had to single out, I'd say Flex Wheeler. I thought his appearance at 93 Arnold, before I competed against him, and he wasn't so good at the Olympia. Later in the year, he was a bit softer.
Was that the year that he had some legal trouble right before the Olympia that kind of took him out of his
Nah,
a little bit?
that was 97. He had one year, 94, he had a car accident and broke his cervical. So he was out that year, and 97 had some incident that happened, and he got injured and he was out. So amazing genetics, and his personality and his career was very up and down. It was not like all out, giving everything it got all the time. So having that in consideration and looking how good that he looked. Him and Ken Laverone was great. Sean Ray was great, and NASA 96, 97 was also very good. So it was 4
That
or
was
5
a real
guys
golden
there.
era there.
Yeah, and why? I've been asked a lot of times, and I think it's just yourself, man. In the 90s, like a lot of young men wanted to be bodybuilders. It was very, very popular. A lot of guys went to the gym, they wanted to be aspired to be or looking like bodybuilders. It's not the same anymore. A lot more people go to the gym, but they're going for a multitude of reasons and goals, and it's not bodybuilding. So I just think it's a matter of, the more people doing something, the more you're going to get genetic standouts. Then I think less people are doing bodybuilding now. More people in the gym.
When did you first meet Mike Mentzer?
I think it was 91, after I won Night of Champions, I met him to say hello. And, he was the guy that I followed in the magazines. for his physique, but also for his intellect and his logic, and I could, wow, this makes sense. Not only does it make sense, when I practice it, it's working, and if I do more volume and I do more like the other guys say, then I get nothing, it's just progress stops, so I didn't need to learn.
It's so incredible. I really would love to sort of sit down with you and talk about this in some detail. I think, you know, I'm sure most of your audience is well aware of your style of training and high intensity training that Mike, and I guess, what was the other fellow's name?
Arthur Jones.
Arthur Jones is credited as being the pioneer.
Arthur Jones was the pioneer because he was the first guy to ask questions and give answers. Like, before that, we didn't really know what was creating muscle growth, and we didn't know too much about genetics. It was like, oh, do Arnold's chest routine, and we'll get a chest like Arnold, and do Tom Platz's leg routine, and maybe you'll like Tom Platz. He was the first one to point it out, and you know, the length of the muscle belly is genetically predetermined. The length of the muscle belly dictates how large it can become, because it could never become wider than it is long, otherwise it wouldn't function. So there is some mechanical limit somewhere, and if you've got a short bicep that measures 3 inches, someone else got a bicep that's 6 inches long, it has twice the potential volume to grow. So took a bit of the voodoo out of it.
But also this idea of like the relationship between type 1 and the type 2 fiber, and the need to either lift something really, really heavy or go to a point of such failure that
it's the intensity of the exercise. So I think, I don't know if it was Mike or Arthur Jones that had a pretty good analogy. It was like, if you have a stick of dynamite and you hit it with a pencil, what's going to happen? Nothing, right? Because the force is not enough. So if I tap it with a pencil 2 times, would anything happen? No. 10 times, 100, on and on. Nothing, right? But if I hit it with a hammer, oh, it's done, job's done. It's the same thing with strength and muscle building. You need that overload, and then you need to recover from it. And this is what I'm interested in now. And I've done it online. I've done it personally a few times with people that's just, they're in bad shape. They've lost muscle mass, they're overweight, they've got high blood sugar, they've got liver enzymes, fatty liver, whatever. They want to do something about it, it's overwhelming, and they don't know what to do, and they don't have enough time. They tell me they don't have enough time. So I throw out a challenge to them. I said, if you give me 45 minutes twice a week, and you follow my recommendations on the diet and supplements and so on, I will literally change your life. And they can't believe it. What, 45 minutes twice a week? I'm saying yes, 45 minutes twice a week. That's all you need. We'll exercise all your major muscle groups twice a week. It's not going to get you into Mr. Whatever. It's not a bodybuilding routine. It's to hit all the major muscle groups in your body to build your muscle mass back to, when you're 20 or 25 years old, a decent level of muscle mass. And you don't need a lot of time to do it. I mean, I was Mr. Olympia. I never weight trained for more than 4 hours a week.
Yeah, this is, I believe you, of course, because I'm familiar with this training method, but I think it's very difficult for the average person to find. And I guess the question I have for you, Mark, is do you think that everybody can do that, or do you think that there's a degree of mental toughness and pain that a person has to be willing to endure for that? Because I've definitely experimented with athletic training, and I have found that not every day can I bring the level of focus that is necessary to truly win. Because there are days when I think I'm at my limit, but I realize, I don't know if I was really at my limit. There might have been one more rep there.
But the thing is, if you were not at your limit, what's your solution?
That's my question. Is watching you train with that, how much would the training part that's just an essential part of being there to hold you accountable on every rep, every time? Because at 4 hours a week, there are no junk reps.
No.
There's no wasted mileage.
Well, you've got to warm up, so it's not wasted, it's part of the process, but is it
Yeah, but sort of when you're doing
Yeah.
the main set, yeah.
The warm-ups are not doing anything because they're within your capacity. So I think the first year and a half I trained on my own just because I was the new kid and like I'm just interested to train with a new kid anyway. So win a contest or something, everyone wants to train with you. So I trained on my own and we just trained to failure or near to failure. If I could grab somebody to watch me, like something where I could get stuck, potentially it's dangerous, like a bench press, if I had somebody. If not, we'll use a machine so I can just, or dumbbells, I can just dump it. And the fact that if I said to you, Peter, like you got 5 sets of heavy squats to do, right? Are you really gonna give 100%? And you know you got 4 more coming up?
No, you
So,
just can't do it. You just cannot do it.
Mentally it's easier if I say, look, it's just this one set, just give it everything that you've got. And whatever it is on that day is what it is. So people say, yeah, but I can't really push to that extent, so I'll do another set. So okay, so you're gonna do one unproductive set, and then you're gonna do another one. Like there's a threshold you have to go over to spark that. Past a certain point, I mean the first year in the gym, everyone grows. If you don't do push-ups and you do push-ups, you'll grow because it's a stress that you're not used to, but you adapt. And then that's when you've got to get smart to get the most out of it. And it is a concern for people, time. You know, they've got a business, they've got a family, they've got a kid, whatever. Anyway, that's what I hear, time. And I don't think you need to, well, I know, it's not that I think, I know you don't need to put a lot of time in because I know I've done it in there. If it's to do with cardiovascular training, I would listen to somebody else because it's not my field. I haven't done it, I haven't lived it, I haven't loved it, I haven't trained other people in that. But I have with weight training, so I know that you can get great results. Should you be a competitive bodybuilder on that? Maybe not, because you need to be the side delt, you need to be the real delt, you need to do more variety of exercises. But for the average person, 10 exercises, warmed up, take to failure, I think is ideal.
Even in your peak, you said you're training 4 hours per week.
Maybe a little more because I would do 2 days on, 1 day off, but never more than an hour. Never more than an hour in this game. No.
I think that's just impressive.
And that was flexible as well because often after leg day, it was so demanding that I'd take a day off and I would feel like I haven't really recovered. And understanding the process as being stimulation, recovery, overcompensation. So you've got to recover before your body's going to rebuild. So there needs to be enough time in between that. And there's local muscular damage and recovery. There's also systemic as well. So often after legs, I call